Hey guys, in today's lecture, we'll be dealing with types of sentences. Now, what is a sentence? A sentence is a set of words that is complete in itself, typically containing a subject and a predicate, conveying a statement, question, exclamation, or command, and consisting of a main clause and sometimes one or more subordinate clauses. We baked some potatoes in the fire. Open the door. Did you say tea or coffee? What a wonderful world. These are all examples of different types of sentences. Now let's look at it in detail. Sentences are classified as declaratives, imperatives, interrogatives, and exclamatives. A declarative sentence makes a statement and ends with full stop. For example, we baked some potatoes in the fire. It is making a statement and it ends in full stop. Imperative sentence makes a request or gives a command. Could you please open the door? Or open the door. And could you please open the door? It is put forth as a request. Open the door is a command. Interrogative sentences asks a questions and end with a question mark. Interrogative sentences asks a question and ends with a question mark. For example, did you say tea or coffee? It is asking a question and it ends with a question mark. Did you say tea or coffee? There is also a rising intonation there. Now, exclamative sentences, as you all may know, expresses a strong feeling of excitement and ends with an exclamation mark. An example would be, what a wonderful world. What a wonderful world ends with an exclamation mark and it denotes a strong feeling or expression. Is it clear? So, declarative sentences is the statement. Interrogative sentences asks a question. Imperative sentences gives out a request or a command. And exclamatory sentences expresses a strong, powerful feeling or emotion. Is it clear? Now moving on to the sentence structure of these sentence types. Declarative sentence have the sentence structure subject, verb and X, where X can denote other elements, objects and complements. Veerapan is dead is an example of a declarative sentence, where Veerapan is the subject, is the linking verb, is the linking verb, be and dead is the adjective or complement. It denotes the state in which Veerapan is in. It qualifies the state in which Veerapan is in. So it is an adjective. Veerapan is dead is an example of a declarative sentence. It has got the sentence structure subject, verb plus complement. Now, imperative sentences gives out a request or a command. In an imperative sentence, there is the absence of an overt subject. The subject to whom this utterance is made, or the subject who should do the work, is not mentioned here. So there is no overt subject in an imperative sentence. It has the sentence structure verb plus X, where X can denote a complement as well as other elements. An example would be, bring me a glass of water. Here the verb is bring, me a glass of water. Me is the object here. A glass of water is again a noun phrase. A glass of water. So it is a complement. So it is in the form verb plus x, where x can denote objects and complements. Imperative sentences does not have an overt subject. Who should carry out this deed is not mentioned here. Or to whom is this sentence addressed is also not mentioned here. The subject is there, but the subject is covered. What do you mean by the subject is covered? The subject is hidden from view. The subject is not explicitly stated in the sentence. There is no subject here. It is not like Rahul, bring me a glass of water. It is bring me a glass of water. It's just a command with no subject. So no overt subject is there in an imperative sentence. I hope that you understood what an imperative sentence is and that you understood the sentence structure of imperative sentence. It is important to know the sentence structure. Now, an interrogative sentence has got the sentence structure auxiliary or modal verb plus subject plus main verb plus x, which can be an object or a complement. An example is, have you seen Bobby? Here have is an auxiliary or modal verb, you is the subject, seen is the main verb, Bobby is the object. Bobby is the object. So in have you seen Bobby, you have which is an auxiliary or modal verb, you which is the subject, seen which is the main verb, Bobby which is the object. Now, exclamatory sentences can be classified based on their function too. There are real exclamatory sentences in English grammar, and they have this sentence structure, which is a phrase with what or how. So, a real exclamatory sentence would begin with a phrase with what or how, followed by a subject, followed by a verb, which is followed by a complement. An example would be, what a liar he is, and how cute she is. So in what a liar he is, what a liar is a phrase beginning with what, which is followed by the subject he, which is followed by the verb is. How cute she is. There, how cute is a phrase which begins with how, followed by the subject she, followed by the verb is. This is an example of a real exclamative sentence. There you are expressing your amazement at something. In the first case, you are expressing your amazement at finding out that a person that you know is a liar. And in the second case, you are expressing your amazement at finding out how cute a woman is. So, these are examples of real exclamatives. Now, you will stop and think about all the other instances of exclamatives, right? So, I have decided to clear that doubt too. So, please note that exclamations can also mean any expression of strong emotion, including one-word interjunctions like ouch, hey, wow. Here, the exclamation is an expression of a strong emotion. So, a strong emotion can also be expressed using interjunctions like ouch to denote pain, hey to denote amazement, wow to denote again amazement, or to denote wonder. Example, that hurts is a declarative statement. That hurts. Here it is a statement, it is a declarative, but still you've used an exclamation mark. and it expresses a strong emotion of pain, right? Who the hell are you? Is an example of an interrogative question. Who the hell are you? If someone is asking you that, it is an interrogative question, but it is again an expression of a strong feeling of contempt. It can also be considered as an exclamative. Don't be so stupid is an imperative command. Don't be so stupid. It is an imperative. It is like a command. Don't be so stupid. Don't believe people blindly is an imperative command. Here also it is an expression of a strong emotion. So exclamations can also mean any expression of strong emotion. Hence, though these statements are declarative in their form, interrogative in their form, and imperative in their form, all these expressions indicate strong emotions, hence they can also be considered as exclamatives. The above said statements are various sentence types made with emotion. Moving on to our next topic, which is question tags. Now you might be familiar with these questions. You have worked hard, haven't you? We had talked about it, hadn't we? These questions are examples of question tags. Now, what is a question tag? Question tags are used to check or clarify information or to simply involve the listener in an interactive way. So, in our first question, which was, you have worked hard, haven't you? You are trying to clarify an information about a particular work done. You have worked hard, haven't you? In the second question, which was, we had talked about it, hadn't we? We are trying to involve the listener with our question, or we are trying to involve the listener with the statement that we have made. We had talked about it, hadn't we? So question tags are used to check or clarify information or to simply involve the listener in an interactive way. Question tags consist of an auxiliary or modal verb or lexical verb be plus subject pronoun. So what is the basic structure of a question tag? It consists of an auxiliary or modal verb or lexical verb be plus subject pronoun. So the second part after the main clause, the second part of the question will be the question tag, and the question tag will contain the auxiliary or helping verb or lexical verb be, the lexical verb in the form of be plus subject pronoun, which is the pronoun which comes as the subject. The subject pronoun repeats the subject of the main clause to which it refers and agrees in number, person and gender with the subject of the main clause. So the subject pronoun repeats the subject of the main clause to which it refers. The subject pronoun is always repeated in the question tag. In most cases, there are only some cases in which it is not repeated and some other subject pronoun is used. Subject pronoun repeats the subject of the main clause to which it refers and agrees in number, person and gender with the subject of the main clause. That is the second rule of the question tags. Where the main clause contains an auxiliary or modal verb or lexical verb be, it is repeated in the tag. So, if the main clause contains an auxiliary or modal verb or a lexical verb be, the same is repeated in the question tag. Where there is no auxiliary or modal verb in the main clause, auxiliary do or does or did is used in the tag. So if in the absence of an auxiliary or modal verb in the main clause, or in the absence of the lexical verb be in the main clause, auxiliary verbs do or does or did is introduced in the tag. Now let's illustrate question tags with the help of some examples. They have given two sets of examples. The first set contains question tags with repeated auxiliaries, and the second set contains question tags with added auxiliary verb. As I mentioned earlier, if there is no auxiliary or modal verb in the main clause, or if there is an absence of the lexical verb be in the main clause, we need to introduce the auxiliary verbs do or does or did in the tag. Now let's take a look at it. All these sentences are in the declarative clause. The main clause is in the declarative. And in the question tag, the auxiliary verb is repeated, though the polarity is changed. You have worked hard. This is the main clause, which is separated from the tag using a comma. You have worked hard. The sentence or the clause is in the affirmative. The clause is in the affirmative. You have worked hard, haven't you? So here the auxiliary verb is repeated. The auxiliary verb have is repeated, though the polarity changed from positive to negative. The subject pronoun you is also repeated here. Haven't you? Is that clear? So here the subject pronoun repeats the subject of the main clause to which it refers in number. This is singular, you is singular, here also you is singular. Person, you is in second person, here also the subject pronoun is in the second person. Gender is not specified here, here also the gender is not specified. Since it is you, the gender is not specified. So the subject pronoun repeats the subject of the main clause and it agrees in number, person and gender with the subject of the main clause. The main clause is you have worked hard. Now here the main clause contains an auxiliary verb, hence it is repeated in the tag. The auxiliary verb is have, main verb is worked. You have worked hard. Here main verb is worked and auxiliary or the supporting verb is have. Hence the auxiliary verb is repeated in the tag. Haven't you? Here the polarity changes from positive to negative. Have and haven't. Is that clear? Moving on to the second example. He didn't get it, did he? He didn't get it, did he? So here didn't is in the negative. It supports the main verb get. He didn't get it. So it is repeated in the tag. Did. It becomes positive. Since in the main clause the auxiliary verb was in the negative, here the auxiliary verbs becomes positive. Did he? We had talked about it. Here the main verb is talked. Had is the auxiliary verb. Both the main verb and the auxiliary verb is in the past tense. Hence here also the auxiliary verb is repeated had. But since here in the main clause the sentence was in the assertive, it was positive, we had talked about it, the auxiliary verb becomes negative. Hadn't we? Here we again, it agrees in number, person and gender with the subject pronoun in the main clause. Here he agreed in number, person and gender with the subject pronoun in the main clause. Is that clear? Kate is Irish, isn't she? So here there is no modal auxiliary, but there is the main verb be. The main verb in the form of be is a connecting verb. Kate is Irish. Hence, since there is a main verb be here, since there is a lexical verb be here, it is repeated here also in the tag. Since the statement is in the positive, Kate is Irish, The auxiliary verb becomes negative. Isn't she? Here the subject pronoun she agrees in number, person and gender with the subject of the main clause. The subject of the main clause was Kate. Kate is singular. Kate is feminine. Hence, the same is being followed here. Isn't Kate is not correct. Isn't she is correct. You need to introduce the subject pronoun. And the subject pronoun must agree in number, person and gender with the subject of the main clause. It is not mentioned the subject pronoun of the main clause, but the subject of the main clause. Here the subject of the main clause is Kate. Kate is a woman. Kate is feminine. Kate is singular. Here she agrees in number, person and gender with the subject of the main clause. Is that clear? Kate is in the third person. You are referring to a third person. So here again the subject pronoun is in the third person. Kate is Irish, isn't she? I hope that it was made clear. Moving on to the examples of question tags with added auxiliary verbs, which means that these questions didn't have an auxiliary in the main clause. In all these declarative clauses, you can see the absence of an auxiliary verb. We spent too much money yesterday. Here there is no auxiliary verb. There is no lexical verb be. Pasty lives in London. Pasty lives in London. Here also there is no supporting verb. And there is the absence of lexical verb be. You speak English. Here again there is the absence of an auxiliary verb as well as the lexical verb be. There is a lexical verb, but it is not in the form of be. So hence we have to introduce do, does, did in order to create question tags. We spent too much money. See, spent is in the past tense. We spent too much money. Here the lexical verb is in the past tense. Hence when we introduce do, it should be in the past tense form. So we spent too much money yesterday. Did. And again this clause is in the positive. It is an affirmative clause. We spent too much money yesterday. Hence the auxiliary verb should be in the negative. Didn't we? Here we, the subject pronoun, agrees in number, person and gender with the subject of the main clause, we. We spent too much money yesterday. Spent is in the past tense. Hence we need to introduce the past tense form of do, which is did. Since the entire sentence is in the assertive form, when we change or when we introduce a question tag, we need to introduce a negative here. Hence it becomes didn't. Didn't we? Pasty lives in London, or Pasty lives in London. You can spell it either way. Pasty lives in London would be the right way to pronounce it. Pasty lives in London. Here lives is in the present form. Lives, since pasty is singular, lives, the verb is also in the singular. There is no auxiliary verb here. There is only the lexical verb lives. So the present tense form of do is does. And since the subject is in the singular and the verb is also in the singular, you need to introduce the present singular form of do, which is does. Since Pasty lives in London is an affirmative, here in the question tag it becomes a negative. Doesn't she? You speak English. You speak English is in the present tense form. You speak English. Speak here is plural. The verb here is in the plural. If it was in the singular, it should have been speaks. So the you here is also plural. You speak English. Since it is in the plural, the auxiliary verb that has to be introduced should also be in the plural. So the auxiliary verb that has to be introduced here is do. Since you speak English is in the affirmative, the auxiliary verb should be in the negative. You speak English, don't you? Is the answer. Again, all these main clauses are separated from the question tag, the beginning of the question tag, by a comma, and the subject pronoun agrees with the subject in number, person and gender. The subject pronoun agrees with the subject in the main clause in number, person and gender. I hope that it was clear. Now moving on to polarity. Now what do you mean by polarity? Now polarity refers to whether a verb is in affirmative or negative, whether the verb is in positive or in negative. There is contrasting polarity between the main clause and the tag. So there is always, or there exists a contrasting polarity between the main clause and the tag. If the verb phrase is in the affirmative, the tag is in the negative. So if the verb phrase is in the positive, the tag is in the negative. If the verb phrase is in the negative, the tag is in the positive. Now sentences like never, nobody, hardly, seldom, scarcely, few, little, not, none and rarely have positive question tags. Once again, sentences with negatives like never, no, nobody, hardly, seldom, scarcely, few, little, not, none and rarely have positive question tags, since these are all negatives. Never, no, nobody, hardly, seldom, scarcely, little, few, not, none are all negative and rarely are all negative. They have positive question tags as per the rule of polarity. Example, you have worked hard, haven't you? See, here have is written in the contracted form, apostrophe VE. You have worked hard is in the first part of the sentence. It is in the main clause. You have worked hard. Hence, it becomes haven't you? Haven't you? Have. The negative of have is haven't you. The main clause was in the positive. The question tag is in the negative. He didn't get it, did he? He didn't get it. He didn't. Didn't is in the negative. He didn't get it. Did he is in the positive. We had talked about it, hadn't we? Here had is in the positive. We had talked about it. Hadn't we? Hadn't is again in the negative. The new police officer is never punctual. See here, the new police officer is never punctual. The word never is there in the sentence. So, with sentences with negatives like never will have a positive question tag. Hence, in this sentence, the new police officer is never punctual. Since never is in the main clause, the tag has a positive. Is he? The new police officer is never punctual. Is he? Now, there are some exceptions in the obligatory repetition of the auxiliary or modal verb. So, not all modal verbs in the main clause are repeated as such in the question tag. There are some exceptions. You might be familiar with them, especially with the case of am. See here, I am crazy to even think about it, aren't I? Even though here in I am, and here am is in the contracted form, in I am crazy to even think about it. I am crazy to even think about it. the tag should be aren't. If it is I am, the tag should always be aren't. Aren't I? There should be a question mark here. I forgot to put a question mark. Sorry. I'm unable to put it now also. And just try to put a question mark here. So, I'm crazy to even think about it. Aren't I? Jim may be able to help you, mightn't he? Jim may be able to help you. See here, it is maybe. Jim may be able to help you. So there the negative form is not mayn't. The form mayn't is extant. It's not there. So you introduce instead mightn't. Mightn't he? Jim may be able to help you. Mightn't he? He used to work with you. So with used to in the main clause, the tag should always be did. He used to work with you. Did he? He used to work with you. Did he? With used to in the main clause, the tag should always be did. He used to work with you. Did he? We ought to ring her now. We ought to ring her now. Oughtn't she or oughtn't we is again a rather extant form. It does not exist. So it should be we ought to ring her now. Shouldn't we or oughtn't we? So though there is an obligatory rule that if there is a modal auxiliary in the main clause, it should be repeated in the tag, in some cases there are exceptions. And exceptions are there with am, may, used to and ought to. So you need to learn this as a rule. With am, may, used to and ought to, there are some exceptions with the repetition of the auxiliary of the main clause. There is no repetition of the auxiliary of the main clause in these cases. For example, I am crazy to even think about it. Though it is I am, in the main clause, the supporting verb is am, but the tag auxiliary should be aren't. I am, aren't I? I am crazy even to think about it, aren't I? Jim may be able to help. It's not mayn't he, it is because mayn't he as a negative does not exist. Hence we introduce mightn't he. Jim may be able to help, mightn't he? He used to work with you. Remember that whenever there is used to in the sentence, in the main clause, whenever there is used to in the main clause, in the question tag it should be did. The verb should be did. The auxiliary modal verb that should be introduced should be did. So he used to work with you, did he? We ought to ring her now. It can be oughtn't, but oughtn't is not there in almost all utterances. The most common form is shouldn't. Shouldn't we? We ought to ring her now. Shouldn't we is the right format. So I hope that it was clear. Now moving on to main clauses with indefinite pronoun. Sentences with indefinite pronouns as subjects will have plural verb and plural pronoun in the question tag. So sentences with indefinite pronouns as subjects will have plural verb and plural pronoun in the question tag. Now the problem with indefinite pronouns is that you cannot specify the number, person and gender of the indefinite pronouns. Okay, you cannot state how many people are there or what gender do they belong to or which person, that is whether they are in the, whether the stated pronoun is in the first person, second person or third person. You won't be able to specify it in the case of indefinite pronouns. So till now we were repeating the refrain that the person, when it comes to personal pronouns, the personal pronoun must agree with the number, person and gender of the subject. But in the case of indefinite pronoun, there is, the indefinite pronouns are not specific in the case of number, person and gender. You cannot specify the number, person and gender of an indefinite pronoun. So what will you do in that case? In that case, you will use a plural verb and a plural pronoun in the question tag. Now let's look at it. When the indefinite pronoun somebody, someone, anyone, anybody, no one, nobody, everyone, everybody are used as subjects, the tag pronoun is normally they. Somebody, someone, anyone, anybody, no one, nobody, everyone, everybody are used as subjects. The tag pronoun is normally they. When the indefinite pronouns everything, something, anything, nothing are used, the tag pronoun is normally it. So with thing, it is it. With one, body, it is they. Okay, someone, somebody, anyone, anybody, no one, nobody, everyone, everybody. When these indefinite pronouns occur in the main clause as subjects, the tag pronoun used is normally they. When the indefinite pronouns everything, something, anything, nothing are used in the main clause, the tag pronoun used is normally it. Let's illustrate it with the help of examples. Someone gets your breakfast, don't they? Someone gets your breakfast. See here, someone is used. So someone is an indefinite pronoun, hence the tag pronoun should be they. Someone gets your breakfast. There is no modal auxiliary verb here. The verb, main verb is gets. The lexical verb is gets. Gets is in the which tense? It is in the present tense. Gets is plural. And irrespective of what it is, since it is someone, since it is an indefinite pronoun, it is in the plural. Indefinite pronoun is in the plural. The verb is also in the plural. And hence, it is indefinite pronoun is in the plural. Hence, the verb in the question tag should also be in the plural. Hence, it becomes don't they. Someone gets your breakfast. Don't they? No one questioned it. Did they? No one questioned it. Did they? No one is again an indefinite pronoun, and since it is an indefinite pronoun, we need to use the tag pronoun they, and no one questioned it. The tag verb should also be in the plural, hence it is did they. Now in no one questioned it, questioned is in the past tense and there is no supporting verb after no one. No one questioned it. So no one is immediately preceded by, no one is immediately succeeded by the verb which is questioned, and questioned is in the past tense. So you need to introduce the past tense form of do in the tag. Hence it becomes did they. Is it clear? There is the absence of modal auxiliary here. There is only the main verb questioned. Questioned is in the past tense. Since there is the absence of modal auxiliary, we need to introduce a form of do, and since the main verb is in the past tense, it becomes the past tense form of do, which is did. And since the indefinite pronoun no one is used, you need to introduce the pronoun they. Hence it becomes did they. Everything is evident, isn't it? Here in is a linking verb. It is a main verb. It is a lexical verb in the form of be. So everything is evident. Here the subject is everything, which is an indefinite pronoun, which is followed by the linking verb is. Hence in the tag it becomes isn't it. Since the main clause is in the positive, everything is evident, the tag becomes negative. Isn't it? So here, since in the subject position an indefinite pronoun is used, that too the indefinite pronoun everything is used, hence in the tag pronoun used is it. So when the indefinite pronoun everything, something, anything and nothing are used, the tag pronoun used is normally it. Everything is evident, isn't it? Here the tag pronoun used is it. Everything is evident, isn't it?